Okay guys, did one video, blankets and eyewear, in the last video this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about more books. I grabbed some more books. We'll talk about more books. And I have a bonus for you after I get done talking about the books. Right? Well, some may consider it a bonus, others may be like, what? Nah. Totally up to you to make that decision at that time. But, just a little added extra at the end of the video, right? Well, at least after the books. Okay, so, I've been doing books. And I call this the apocalyptic bookshelf, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so it's books so that if you, the educated one, if something happens to you, and you got other people that are been kind of relying on your knowledge and kind of learning as they go, right? If something happens to you and all they got left is these books. You know, they can learn something, right? So, anyway, so you need a library. You need a library on hand for grid down scenario. Grid's never coming back, or the grid is only available to those, you know, who are complying with whatever draconian, you know, stipulations that some, you know, big brother organization is putting out, you know, trying to get you to comply, whatnot. So, yeah, not me. Anyway, so these are books that I have looked through, and they're on the shelf. So, I'm actually gonna start with this one. Okay, and this right here is a trapping book. Now you got to remember, in grid down world, you don't need to worry about getting a license or any of that nonsense. You're doing what you need to do to live, right? So, and you shouldn't have to have a license anyway, because God gave you your license. He said, all this is here for you to eat, right? Beasts of the field and birds of the air and fish of the sea and whatnot. It says that in Genesis. You know, that's in the very beginning. Hey, here it is. Every herb, every animal for your food. So anyway, this book is called Trapping 101, a complete guide to taking fur-bearing animals. That's by, I believe, father and son duo. Massaro is their last name. So, tips, tactics, techniques for all skill levels. So I had to look through this because I did a lot of trapping when I was a youngster. I and one of my brothers were very big into hunting and trapping when we were young. And we used conibear traps. Now I think Victory Company, I think, is the company that bought out all of the conibear stuff. Now I think that a lot of companies are just generically called certain type of trap, conibear trap, you know, the body catch trap. But anyway, this is a good book. I suggest that you get one and put it on your shelf. And I'm gonna go with this one next. This one here. Okay, remember we were talking about Larry Dean Olson and his kind of group over there, and the, you know, that whole Redoubt area, the whole Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Utah, all that area there, right? So anyway, this is a book that was put together and edited by David Westcott. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard of David Westcott. So anyway, this is put together from the Society of Primitive Technology, right? So this book is actually called Primitive Technology, a book of earth skills, right? So it shows some like flint-knapped arrowheads and spearheads and stuff like that on the cover, right? And Gibbs Smith is the publisher. Okay. Says here on the back, David Westcott says, from deep within the caverns of time, like-minded primitive technologists have felt an irresistible urge to come together around the campfire and share ideas. This urge to share has reverberated throughout the centuries. So, and then of course there's a bit more there on the back, which if you pick up the book you can read. So anyways, it's got all kinds of goodies in here, okay, and this was a compilation, right? I saw something in here when I looked through it, but I don't remember what it was that I saw, but I was like, oh yeah, you know, I've done that before, but they kind of presented it as if it had never been done before. That's the thing is that there's a lot of times when you might think, you know, hey, I've never seen anybody do this before, but a lot of times we are just kind of reinventing the wheel because some things are forgotten technology or forgotten. They've been put by the wayside because modern stuff has pushed it out of everybody's mind, you know. And one or two generations go by, and then that knowledge is lost. That's why we got to keep refreshing and keeping certain things alive, you know, as we go along. Kind of like I was talking about, you know, adding up azimuths as you go, right? And then the Paul method came out, I think it was in the 80s. And then I thought, oh, this is really cool. And then I found out that this was really just refound, you know, skill set that had been used before, you know. All right, so I think I want to go with this one last. I want to go with this one. I'm going to go with this one. These two here are Ray Mears hardbacks. Now this particular one is by Ray Mears. Check my time. Ray Mears and Gordon Hillman. Okay, there's Gordon on the back. I think he died recently, just a couple of years ago. Anyway, he was a really cool guy, Gordon Hillman, and super intelligent about food and as far as wild edibles and mycology, which is mushrooms. He was a super brainiac on those things. That was his passion, right? So Ray did this wild food series on the BBC, so you can watch it. I think it's in four televised series. But anyways, obviously the book goes into more detail and behind the scenes stuff, and this is an excellent book. Full color photos in here and whatnot, and I highly suggest this book, and I suggest that you watch Ray Mears' wild food series that came from the BBC. So watch the series and read the book, Okay, very good. Another one is Ray Mears, which also goes with a TV series by Ray Mears. Okay, and this is BBC. Okay, Ray Mears Bushcraft. Okay, Bushcraft Survival. So it's Ray Mears Bushcraft Survival. That was the TV series, and I've watched every single episode of both the Wild Food and this one. And this book has a lot of behind the scenes and other extra info that they edited out of the series because of time, right? So I highly suggest that you pick that up so that you can have that to go along with your Ray Mears videos, right? So last but not least is this one. This is the U.S. Air Force Survival Handbook. Okay, now you guys probably have seen, I've got a number of things over the past years that are Air Force, and a lot of people make fun of the Air Force. Now, one of my brothers was Air Force, and he was involved in working on top secret aircraft. Now, I always respected my brother and his intelligence. One thing about the Air Force is that they use money. They use money to develop. They do very in-depth study and research and development of things like this survival handbook. Now, if you look at this survival handbook versus the U.S. Army's survival handbook, which I also have in the other room, and I didn't bring it out because it's not easily accessible at the moment, but if you look at that book and you look at this book covers so much more. I think that this is definitely something that you will want to have. Okay, there are things obviously in here for when a guy ejects out of an aircraft and whatnot. But there's a lot of other stuff that could just pertain to the regular old leg, the regular old foot soldier, and explorers, people that are explorers, all of this stuff is very, very relevant. It's like the Canadian Forces book that I showed you guys the other day, right? That is an older book, but everything in there is still relevant. There are some things that may not be relevant in some of the books that are out there on the market these days. But that Canadian Forces, which I believe is also an Air Force book, very good. This has all the abseiling stuff in here, and knots, Prussic knots, and water knots, and figure-8 knots, and how to walk uphill, how to walk downhill, crossing rivers and streams. I mean, the whole 9 yards, it's all in there, So, I hate to say this, but a lot of people get very prejudiced against one branch of service or another. I've heard people make fun of the Coast Guard, or they've made fun of the Air Force, and but you got to understand that they're all branches, and we need all of them, right? We need all of them. When you're a forward observer, or you're in the SEALs or the Special Forces or what, it doesn't matter, right? If you're out there, and then you want to call in a fire mission, or you want to call in an airstrike, right? you know, are you gonna make fun of those guys? I don't think so, man. You're gonna be like, yep, yep, yep. Directing fire, right? Okay. So you're not gonna make fun of those guys. You need to show them some respect. I know that there's a lot of joking around and things like that, but personally, I'm not a joking type person. You know, I treat everybody with respect. And I never got to the extra at the end. So we'll bring that up in the beginning, right? See you there.